What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the third edition of the Jackson Files. Today we're going to check out a case that was featured on the channel That Chapter. I will put the link in the description as well. And it's to a gentleman named Todd Mullis, and it says the Corn Rake Killer. I have no idea what I'm getting into. However, I do love stuff like this, and I love bringing this kind of content to you guys. So if you are new to my channel, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I do go live almost every evening between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. Eastern, live reacting to music and just hanging out. It's a great time. I would love for you to come through. Let's get this going. This is the case of Todd Mullis, Corn Rake Killer.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike. And in this old video, we are going to a farm, right? A farm all the way depending on where you are, because it might, like, be just over there. In Iowa. Did I use that before? On the Mullis pork farm. Imagine the smell. In the middle of nowhere lived Todd Mullis and his family. So what happened is that in 2018, while out pigging around, a hog mistress, Amy Mullis, had an accident involving a corn rake. Accident, though. Is it really? Because you would have to accident quite a few times in this one. So, hey, let's give it a go.
Okay, you're headed to the hospital and she's in your vehicle?
On the 10th of November 2018, a hard frost was settling into the fields. The average temperature that Saturday was -6 degrees Celsius as the winter marched onward. And on County Highway D13, Hogger Todd was racing in his truck with his 13-year-old son Tristan and wife Amy with him. He was racing to the hospital. Amy, she was bleeding out. Todd Mullis lived on a farm with his 3 children in... What's nowhere but a place? That's Delaware County, Iowa. That's what that is. It's about 3 hours from Des Moines, and that's where Mullis Pork LLC was. They raised pigs, they made their life there, and ended theirs too. It was in the red shed that day, of course it's the red shed, come on, that Amy Mullis was discovered unconscious. Unconscious because she had a big fucking corn rake sticking out of her back. Jesus. Amy was discovered by her son, Tristan, and it appeared to, have been some kind of freak accident. It's funny because, when you think of like a rake like that, you think of kind of like Looney Tunes, stepping up, boing. No, she had fallen on it.
What is your name, sir?
No, she fell on a fork. I took a goddamn fork on her. I don't know how that freaking happened. I'm sorry about my cursing.
Can you pull over? I've got an officer almost to where you're at. Sir, do you feel comfortable doing CPR?
I can try. I'll try anything.
Let me just say, that's kind of crazy that they told him to pull over. I mean, granted, I don't know how far he was from a hospital, but if all I know is if my wife had a fork stuck in her like that, I wouldn't want to pull over. I'd want to keep going to the hospital, right?
Now.
Come on, respond. Come on.
I mean, granted, I know we're going to find out more on this case, but it seems like he's pretty sincere in this phone call, in my opinion.
And when they arrived, Amy Mullis was pronounced dead at the hospital in Manchester. It was only about 20 minutes from the Mullis farm. Upon pronouncing her dead, it was decided by the medical examiners that it was what happens all the time on farms when you're working with sharp instruments and big machinery. An accident. Until it was seen that Amy had 6 holes in her from a 4-pronged corn rake.
Oh, shit.
So she obviously, fell a few times. after she was stabbed with a corn rake by someone. It was quickly ruled a homicide. Todd and Amy Mullis in 2018 had been married for 14 years, got hitched in 2004. They were happily married for quite some time, had 3 kids together. Todd was working away on the farm, Amy was a nurse in the emergency department at Manchester Hospital, a hospital she would later pass away at. So, you know, things were grand until 2013, when Amy had an affair. Todd discovered this, but they decided to work things out. They went to counselling together, but Todd, his trust was poo-pooed by this point, and he said, here, listen, do you want to make things work, make our marriage work, make the farm work, make, you know, the life for our kids work, you're gonna have to quit that job at hospital, come and work with me on the farm so I can... She better start shoveling shit with him because he was not gonna let her out of her sight. Their trust was gone, and I guess he didn't want to lose her again. So that's, you know, what they did to keep their farm, marriage, and 3 kids together. But I guess it was kind of like putting a plaster on a corn rake puncture. I really forced that one. Because in 2018...
This guy's accent gets me every time.
Things were not looking so hot once again. As the investigation into the death of Amy Mullis began, obviously the police started by speaking to the #1 person of interest. The husband. And they wanted to know how their marriage was, you know, 5 years after the wheels came off. And Todd was like, yeah, it's great. Or sorry, what he says is communication is good.
Describe you and Amy's relationship. How would you describe it in the last 5 years? How would you describe your marriage to me? We were together all the time, you know, and
being deliberately, like, political about how he's trying to word this. The investigators, however, already knew that was a lie, and that Amy had started having another affair. An affair with a farm manager named Jerry Fraser. He was the farm's bookkeeper, and him and Amy would talk all the time about work. And in May 2018, 6 months before Amy's death, it graduated into something more. In fact, it's believed that Amy was planning on leaving Todd, divorcing him and taking half the farm with her. Amy would tell friends she felt like a prisoner in her own home, in her own marriage. Todd, she told friends, would manage everything. She essentially had an approved list of people she could see and be around, all vetted by our #1 hog man. And it seemed that Todd, being, well, what we hear about him to be, had become suspicious of Amy once again. He had gone over her phone records and discovered she'd been sending a shitload of texts to Jerry Fraser.
Well, let me just say, like, I mean, granted, it doesn't warrant murdering somebody by any means, but he obviously was suspicious for a reason, and it seems like he was correct.
Fraser, and he'd been sending quite a few back. Now then, Todd went to speak with Jerry's wife, because of course Jerry was married too.
Jesus.
And she told Todd, everything's grand, don't get your knickers in a twist, he's not having an affair, you know, don't worry about it. Their marriage was good, so Todd, I'm sure it's all good. All gravy. So that kind of relaxed Todd, you know, a bit. But there was an affair going on. Jerry Fraser, by the way, was cleared relatively early, the other man in her life, and so on. He was out of town, about 45 minutes away. His alibi was airtight, as was, you know, his phone records and phone location. Didn't seem like anyone had snuck onto the farm and attacked Amy Mullis with a corn rake or anything. So Todd denied knowing about the affair. The police didn't buy that. So what actually happened on that day? Well, Todd and his son Tristan would often work together on the farm. That day, they were as they usually would. Amy was helping out, and the...
It's a lot of freaking pigs, huh?
2 younger children remained in the abode. So while they were all kind of working away at different bits and bobs, Tristan noticed that his mom, Amy, she was kind of dizzy, she was losing her balance quite a bit as she was tinkering with bits and yolks around the place. See, what happened was that 4 days earlier, on the 6th of November, Amy had an outpatient medical procedure, so she's a bit woozy. After a while, Todd told her to finish up and head inside. She's not well. but he asked her before she went if she could grab the pet carrier. He'd need it later, as they had kittens and he wanted to round them up before heavy machinery was roaming around, 9 lives won't stand much chance against that. So Todd and Tristan kept working away, then about an hour and a half later they headed into the office. Todd and Tristan were together the entire time. Neither, like said the other, snuck away. Todd, looking out the window, saw the pet carrier wasn't where he asked Amy to leave it. So Todd was like, oh, fuck's sake. Tristan here. Tristan went into the red shed and found his mother Amy. Todd raced in, took the rake out of her back because he wasn't able to carry her out of where she was with the rake still in her. And then they started driving. So how did Amy have 6 holes in her from a 4-pronged rake? Well, the medical examiner would say she appeared to have been stabbed twice, perhaps even 3 times. There were also injuries to her face, hands and knees. There was probably a struggle, or it could have been when she hit the ground after being impaled. There was blood on the ground, but no real evidence of a struggle, no markings or blood spatter anywhere else in the shed. Now, the fact that Amy was dizzy that day and had, a procedure just a few days prior seemed convenient to the police, in that, to them, Todd wanted to make it look like it would be an accident. He chose, after she'd had the medical procedure, to kill her. Well, they were very convinced he had killed her at this point. He wanted a cover, essentially. And another thing was that they had, a security camera system on the Mullis farm. It worked the day before, it worked the day after. Didn't work that day. Todd Mullis never admitted or cracked or anything during the hours of questioning.
We completed our investigation at this point, and the case clearly shows that you're responsible for Amy's death at this point. I'm responsible. This Saturday was something of a combination of a perfect storm for you and Amy. There were a lot of things going on, not just in this week or in the months before, but in the months and years building up to this. There's an opportunity to have transferred another man in 2008. I mean, no more time. We were so mad about that. We felt betrayed again. And that's what's going on.
I will say that, I know these detectives have jobs to do, but I really don't like how they just assume things, in an accusatory style to people. I mean, it's pretty rough sometimes.
I mean, I'm just, I'm killing.
Right there, come on.
And it's hard to rip it.
He even put his hand on him. I know, come on, man. I know that's a mechanism to get people to confess to crimes, but I don't think that's right sometimes.
So they kept digging. Next, they undertook a search warrant of the Mullis property. They seized computers, electronics, iPads. And get this. On the iPad, they found searches. Searches for killing unfaithful women, killing cheating spouses, and what happened to cheating spouses in historic Aztec tribes. Spoiler alert, nothing good.
Delaware County investigators arrested a man today for the murder of his wife. Todd Mullis, who is 42 years old, is in the Delaware County jail tonight on a first-degree murder charge. Investigators say he killed Amy Mullis last November at their farm in Earlville. The Delaware County Sheriff's Office says Mullis stabbed her to death with a corn rake. Investigators originally said that she died in a farm accident at the couple's home. They ruled it a homicide less than a month later. Court documents show that Amy Mullis feared for years that her husband might kill her. Investigators believe that Todd killed her last fall because he believed she was cheating on him.
And so, with all that, in January 2019, Todd Mullis was arrested and charged with his wife's murder. The trial was on, a trial in which Todd himself would take the stand.
Todd Mullis, on or about the 10th day of November, 2018.
I still wonder about the... how did somebody kill, or how did he kill her if he was with his son the whole time and they never left each other? That kind of seems weird, and I wonder if that'll, come to light.
in Delaware County, state of Iowa, did kill Amy Mullis. The defendant has entered a plea of not guilty.
We would love for you to get to meet Amy, but you won't. Instead, you will share a courtroom with her killer. This brutal, senseless murder happened not far from here. He wasn't going to let Amy get away with cheating on him again. And more importantly, he wasn't going to let Amy take half of his farm. Amy was fearful of the defendant, how she told her friends and family members that she was planning on leaving him, but that she was afraid that if he found out she was having an affair, he would kill her. And she also told another friend that he would make her disappear.
To the prosecution, Todd was an angry, jealous, cold-blooded killer. Amy was scared of him, and she knew that if he learned of the affair, it'd be curtains for Amy.
He used a corn rake because he tried to make it look like a farm accident. He was hoping that people would just feel sorry for him and not ask any questions.
So his explanation was the only one he could think of. This wasn't something he manufactured. It was like, what else could it be? She was dizzy in the hog barn. Here we find her with this fork in her back. She was trying to get this pet carrier out of the shed. I don't have any other explanation.
To the defense, Todd was a hard-working, salt-of-the-earth man. They tried to point the finger elsewhere, but never really at anybody definitively.
Todd Mullis' statements about Amy falling on a fork and dying accidentally was a honest, legitimate, on-the-spot explanation or an attempt to explain what happened to her. It was wrong. She was murdered. Horribly. But I believe that you will find that not only at the end of this case that there's a reasonable doubt about Mr. Mullis' guilt, but there's no doubt at all.
Also, the defense attorney really looks like he doesn't want to be there, doesn't give a shit. Jerry Fraser also took the stand and did say how Amy was afraid of Todd.
Did she tell you how Todd treated her?
She made different notes, or not notes, but said she felt like a slave or a hostage. One time she did say that if he ever found out, she would disappear.
Were you afraid about Todd finding out about your affair?
Yes.
Why?
Why wouldn't you be?
Tristan, too, the only witness, was called up. He was called up on video.
My mom, she kind of, she said she was getting dizzy, and she said that she was bleeding because she had had a surgery a few days prior to that day.
How long were you and your dad in the hog barn together after your mom left?
Probably about another hour and 30 minutes.
A few days before the trial, Tristan revised his statement. He said Todd was out of his sight, didn't know how long though.
Come on.
At some point, did you lose sight of your dad?
Yes.
Do you know exactly how long your dad wasn't in your sight?
No.
The time that you didn't see your dad you obviously didn't see your mother either.
Yes.
You did not see your mom at that time? Sorry,
yes.
That was confusing.
Yes.
No, you still, as you sit here today, can't think of any person that would want to do this to your wife.
No.
Any person that would know that she was in the red shed at that exact time. You can't think of any person. Can you?
Right now or then?
Then, could you think of anybody?
I couldn't think of anybody then.
Like you said, some of those Google searches were yours.
Yes.
But sometimes Amy would use your iPad.
She would use the iPad, yes.
Okay. Amy would physically use that iPad, right?
Yes.
Like to search things, obviously, yesterday, like that wedding stuff and bride stuff. I mean, like you said, you didn't do that, right?
No, I did not.
Pinterest, none of that stuff. January 5th, 2018, there's a search for characteristics of cheating women. Did you do that search?
No.
Okay. Do you know who did that search?
No.
You have no idea?
No.
There's a search on here, that same date, 16 facts about cheating women. Did you do that search?
No.
So the 911 call comes up again, and during that call, Todd pulled over to do chest compressions. Tristan got out of the car to flag down an ambulance. So this part is kind of reminiscent of the Mark Duenas case. You remember that 911 call in that one when it's like, did he say this? Did he say that? This is that.
When they asked me to do CPR, I said I'll do whatever will help her.
And you mean that? You'll do anything at that point to help save your wife?
Yes.
And you start those chest compressions, right?
Yes.
And you heard that tape when we played it the other day, right?
Yes.
And at that point, what are you thinking when you're doing that?
Trying to get her to come back.
You're just trying to save her.
Yes.
Right? Now, Todd, here I'm gonna play you the part where you're doing the chest compressions, and I'm just gonna ask that you listen in between the chest compressions, okay? Now, Todd, did you just hear that whisper at the end of that?
Yes.
And what did you whisper?
I couldn't hear it.
Okay, I'm gonna play it again. Todd, do you whisper cheating whore right there?
No.
So you don't remember what you whispered?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna play another clip for you. Do you know what
I mean, I'm not hearing what she's saying either.
you whispered there?
No.
Did you hear that? Right there, do you say, go to hell, cheating whore?
No.
This, to me, is not nearly as clear-cut as the Mark Twain one.
Hear it.
It's so muffled and the quality is so bad I don't really buy it, is what I'm saying. But when someone, you know, quote, tells you what he's saying, you're like, oh yeah, he is saying that. Yeah. I'll leave that for you guys to decide. But let me tell you what the jury decided. That Todd Mullis was guilty.
12941. We, the jury, find the defendant, Todd Michael Mullis, guilty of the crime of murder in the first degree. Signed by the jury foreperson.
Now, let me just say, I don't know if this guy did it or not, but, like, I can't imagine if you were not guilty and you were found guilty, like, the dreadful feeling that would have to be.
He was sentenced to life in prison.
I did not do this. This is supposed to be America where you have a fair chance of proving your innocence. But you shouldn't have to prove your innocence. Instead of the other way around, I thought it was guilty until, or not, innocent until proven guilty. I feel this is the other way around. And I was a faithful and loving husband, and I never did this.
And that's that one, which is quite an interesting one. Didn't he? On the prosecution side, you have Todd. Amy was going to leave him. She was going to divorce him. She was going to take half his farm, a farm he put his life into, and he wasn't going to let that slide. You got the searches on the iPad. You got the 911 call where maybe he does, or...
I do think, like, if I had to give my opinion on this case, I do think he did it. I do think he gave a great, or he did a, I don't want to say he did a great job. That's like in poor taste, but I feel like he put on a good act, in making you think that he wasn't guilty. But I mean, the fact that he asked his wife to go get the pet carrier from the red shed and then disappeared while he was with his son. And then, you know, his son finds her dead shortly after, along with those searches on his computer about, like, you know, how to kill your cheating spouse. I mean, I feel like that kind of sums it up right there, especially the search on his computer.
Doesn't say something nasty, and you got, well, no one else. And on the defense, you know, you got, like, the only witness there that day, Tristan, said largely Todd was never, his dad was never out of his sight, apart from maybe one moment when he's not really too sure. But even still, he never heard any commotion, never saw any blood on his dad, never, you know, saw anything, like, out of place. So when could he have done it? Right, and if not Todd, then hardly his 13-year-old son or the two younger children. Maybe Tristan, after losing his mother, didn't want to lose his father too, and so he wanted to cover for him. Or maybe it really was just an accident. She was unsteady on her feet after the medical procedure, and so she tripped and then tripped again. Killing someone with a rake as well is quite an odd way to do it. You know, you'd imagine it'd be like, this'll do. You know, kind of spur of the moment. I don't even know how it would work, kind of. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Alright, here, listen, go on. I'll see you as always real soon in the next one. Till then, please take care of yourselves. Mike out.
Alright, y'all, that was the Corn Rake Killer, the case of Todd Mullis. Let me know what you think in the comments after watching this, what you think happened. I hope you're enjoying this content from me. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you later and stay safe.